10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with the channel or are watching this channel for the first time, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense because here on this platform, we discuss everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions. But not everyone uses logic. So for that reason, it is called Uncommon Sense. I also have another YouTube channel called Latina Diaspora where I discuss issues pertaining to Latinos living in the United States. The link to that channel is in the description. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, the subscriber mode has been enabled for the first 5 minutes. Meaning, if you're not a subscriber and if you wish to enter a comment in the chat, you will need to have subscribed to the channel for at least 5 minutes into the show. With all that, I first of all like to start off by giving a huge shout out to all those who have already subscribed to the channel. Whether you've been a supporter from the very beginning or just recently joined, I really appreciate your love and continued support. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media, as well as those who allow me to enter into your devices, and those who watch from the clouds, even the haters. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you've not done so already, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and set the bell notifications to all. So therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on the playback. So as you can see by the thumbnail, the topic for tonight is obsession. Now, in all fairness, I have covered this topic before, but I will cover it again tonight. So before we get into the description regarding what it's about and why it exists, we're going to have another episode of In My Words. Well, first of all, the first thing I'm going to talk about is, of course, Explaining TV. Of course, you know that the hostess is my cyber daughter, Denise Gonzalez. So, on my last stream, which aired on Friday night, she aired, and it was the first time, and I think it was the first time that she entered any discussion in the chat for quite some time. Of course, we all know that she's been on a long time sabbatical here these YouTube streets due to multiple situations which I am not privy to share. Okay. But it is good to see her again. And the fact of the matter is, she has been truly missed. Now, I know that, she have had her haters like everybody else does. But I think one thing you have to bear in mind is that she does bring a unique perspective on things. And she did talk about topics that very few people talk about. And sometimes when you talk about topics that few people talk about, sometimes you're going to create ops. Okay? Because the questions and issues that are being raised are deemed by some people to be uncomfortable. But one thing you have to admire about her is the fact that she will speak her mind and it will be factual. Whether or not you agree with it, it's another thing altogether. Now, the other thing that I wish to discuss is that yesterday, my union, SSE Local 371, which is a member of DC 37, marched in the Dominican Day Parade for the first time. Okay. And there was a group, say, I think it was about 14 of us. So, now what made it special is that, it was a celebration of Dominican pride. Pride in the culture, pride in the history, pride in the people. Okay. Now, of course, I am aware that unfortunately, the week before, during the Bronx Dominican Day Parade, towards the end, unfortunately, there was some gunplay which people were injured. Okay. One thing we have to bear in mind is that there's always going to be some bad people in every group. But that in no way is a judgment regarding the Dominican community. They, for the most part, are a hardworking community that that are very that have a great deal of pride in their culture, pride in their history, pride in their music, and pride of the achievements that they have made and their contributions to life in the United States. So, all I can say, bravo, and to my fellow Dominicans, que lo que. Now the final thing that, of course, I'm going to talk about is, of course, we're approaching the end of the summer. Today is August the 11th. So within a few weeks, it'll time. Okay, here in New York, it would be time to go back to school. Okay, I know that our children, some children are not looking forward to the end of summer vacation. Others are because that means they get to be with their friends and their peers and what have you. But it just goes to show how life is. We go through as we get older, we go through the seasons of our lives. Some of us are in the springtime, meaning youth as far as being a child. Others are approaching the summer, which are approaching young adulthood. Some of us is in the fall of our lives. In other words, we're approaching middle age, and then there's those of us approaching the winter, which is basically the elder years. In my case, I know that I am no longer a kid. I mean, I will be 63 years old um, in less than 2 months. But with God's grace, I still have a great deal of life to live. And as we get older, we need to value the time more richly. We also need to value our families as well. Okay, because as we get older, we will lose members of our family to death, or we may become distant. So let us value the family that we have with us. So, with that being said, we're going to get into the main topic. Now, before I continue, let me just state for the record that the link to join the panel has been pinned. Should anyone wish to hit that link and join the panel regarding and opine regarding the topic at hand, they may do so. As always, if I never see you before, excuse me, if I never see you before, if I never heard from you before, I will insist that you come up in the backstage to make sure that no one flash anything inappropriate, which would cause the people of YouTube to take down their stream. Now, once I see that you are neutral, once I see that you're not going to try to disrupt things, I will grant you access to the panel. Okay. Of course, whether or not you decide to cam up or not cam up, that I'll leave to your discretion. Okay, because I do understand that there are those individuals that do not wish to cam up, and then there are those that do. Okay. Now, as far as the topic is hand, one thing I have noticed that not just here on these YouTube streets, but also outside in real life, there are certain individuals that are fixed on a belief or system or what have you, and that sometimes they may blindly hold on to it. So what I'm going to do is share my screen. Now, what I'm going to do is, I should have done this earlier. Okay, so just give me a moment. Okay. Now, obsession in psychology refers to a persistent, intrusive thought, idea, or image that dominates a person's mind and can cause significant distress and anxiety. While everyone experiences occasional intrusive thoughts, obsessions are characterized by the intensity, frequency, and the difficulty individuals have in dismissing them. These unwanted thoughts can interfere with daily life and lead to repetitive compulsion behaviors designed to alleviate the anxiety that they cause. So that is the clear definition of what obsession is. Now, here is a more detailed breakdown. And these are key characteristics of obsession. Intrusive and unwanted. Obsessions are thoughts, images, or impulses that enter the mind against the individual's will, and often disturbing or distressing. They are recurrent and persistent. They are not fleeting thoughts, but rather thoughts that repeatedly occupy the mind. They are also distressing. Obsessions can cause significant anxiety, fear, disgust, or other negative emotions. They are recognized as excessive or unreasonable. Individuals with obsessions typically recognize that their thoughts are excessive or unreasonable, yet they struggle to control. They interfere with daily life. Obsessions can disrupt daily activities, relationships, and overall well-being. Okay. Like, for example, if you have an individual that obsessed because that person has a platform on social media. That obsession could be to try to constantly paint a negative or an untruthful image regarding the person in question. Now, there are examples of obsession. Contamination, fear of germs, dirt, or bodily fluids. I mean, you have people who are germaphobes, that they are constantly cleaning, constantly in fearful of germs. So they'll try to create a sterile environment as possible. Fear of harming oneself or others. Order and symmetry. Need things to be perfectly aligned or arranged. You have certain individuals that are overly concerned about maintaining order, and anything that's slightly out of order they treat as chaotic. Religious obsessions, fear of blasphemy or sin. You have certain people who are such strict observance of their faith systems that They feel that any independent thought becomes sinful. 6. Unwanted sexual thoughts or urges. You have certain individuals who their mind is so focused on sex, 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 and nothing else. And unfortunately, these type of individuals would dehumanize and treat other human beings as mere objects of sexual gratification. Okay. For example, if you watch porn and you got the belief that members of the opposite sex are only there for your own sexual gratification. And it becomes a need to satisfy your lustful and carnal desires. Now let's define the difference between obsessions versus compulsions. Obsessions are thoughts, while compulsions are repetitive behaviors the individual engage in to try to neutralize the anxiety caused by obsessions. For example, a person with an obsession about contamination might engage in excessive hand washing, a compulsion to reduce their anxiety. Now, I can just imagine during the COVID-19 pandemic, when we didn't have a vaccine, or we didn't have a great knowledge, there was a great deal of fear involved. How to get infected and how to deal with it. And of course, it led people to go outside with masks, gloves, a face shield, all in the attempt to avoid infection to COVID-19. Okay. Now we'll talk about obsessions and mental health. Obsessions are a core feature of obsessive compulsive disorder, which is OCD. However, obsession can also occur outside OCD, sometimes in response to stress or other mental health conditions. And of course, if you're experiencing persistent distressing obsessions, it's important to seek help from a mental health professional. They can assess your situation, determine if you have OCD or another condition, and recommend appropriate treatment options such as cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, or medication. Okay. So now we're going to park it here. So that kind of gives you an idea regarding what is obsession. Okay. Now for the people just joining in, the topic for tonight is obsession. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen again. Now, for the meaning of obsession, it is the domination of one thoughts or feelings by a persistent idea, image, desire, etc. The idea, image, desire itself, state of being obsessed. So that is the actual definition. Good evening, Gigi. Thank you very much for stopping by. Oh, I love your new avatar. And of course, my friend Gigi has her own YouTube channel where she addresses a lot of topics regarding the themes going on, in social media and mixed communities. So you're quite welcome. So I'm going to ask you to show some love to my friend Gigi and subscribe to her channel. Also, I'm going to ask that you subscribe to Irby Fatale's new channel. He started creating content. Of course, he is a new YouTube creator. So I'm going to ask that you show some love towards him as well and subscribe to his channel. So just a reminder, tonight's topic is obsession. Okay. Now all of us have seen obsessive behavior in social media. Some of us has been dealing with certain individuals that has this fixation on us, and we'll take to social media to deflect, paint a false image. Sometimes they may post threats, whether it be imagined or real, because unfortunately you have certain people that are fixated to making things uncomfortable for other individuals. Now, most of us has been taught that if we don't like someone, that we don't deal with the person and we just move on. You know what, Gigi? That is the most appropriate response. Okay. Now this is the thing, and I've seen this, that there are certain individuals that have this hatred towards biracials. I mean, first of all, people should be able to love who they wish to love. And of course, when people love who they wish to love, you're going to produce offspring. So to hate someone over something that they have no control of, that's an obsession right there. Okay. Because we all should be judged. If we're going to be judged, we should be judged on our character and who we are as individuals. We should not be judged because of things that we cannot control. We cannot control if we're the offspring, who we're the offspring of. We cannot control any physical traits. Yeah. Well, look, the thing, Gigi, is that we all know this. Hurt people, okay? And you have individuals that have obsessions, okay, and it could enter in areas like in politics, it can enter into areas like race, it can enter into areas like religion. Well, you know what? I would not know. I would not know. Generally, I try to avoid um, members of the exoticals, okay, or people that think that they're part of the exoticals camp, okay, because you all know how I personally feel about it. I have a huge issue with anyone that base everything on their external looks, because the reality is that beauty is fleeting. Beauty as outer beauty is limited. Okay. Now, if you live a healthy lifestyle, if you maintain a healthy diet, you could remain youthful for an extended period of time. Another issue that I have with individuals from that camp is that some of them they bleach, some of them do things to try to change their appearance and try to maintain that youthful look, and also try to maintain that this a particular image, which is why I refer to that segment as the members of the Pretty Dumb Club. Okay, pretty privilege will get you a couple of things for a short period of time. But what happens when you get into your 40s, 50s, and 60s, and then you don't look youthful anymore, and now you're competing with the 20-plus-year-olds and the 30 of the younger generation who are younger, more youthful, more vital. Maybe they don't have much of a body count. I mean, that's the reason why I have an issue towards that segment here in YouTube land. And generally, I avoid them like I avoid that bad. Okay. Check, see if anyone. Okay. You have to excuse me because every now and then I have to check and see if everyone is in the chat on Instagram. But you know what? That, in my opinion, to maintain this aesthetic, to maintain this youthful look, and base everything on pretty privilege, that is an obsession. And this obsession comes in many forms, okay? The overwhelming desire to make money as much as possible, to the extent that you don't care of how you get it, and enter into questionable activity. That is an obsession. Okay. Another obsession is the belief that women in the United States are too trashy, too slutty, too whatever. that you go overseas um, to find your significant other. Okay. Now, there's nothing wrong um, if you decide to go that route. It's just that you don't have to trash American women that way. Okay. Now, the first girlfriend I had was black. She was with me for a short period of time. Unfortunately, she dumped me for one of my friends. Do I think all black women are the same? No. There is good and there's bad in every community. Okay. Just like there are people, no, just like there are people. Okay, there are people in every community who are great, and then there are people in every community that are not so great. Okay. Unfortunately, we're living in a situation that certain people have had a bad experience with one, two, or a few people from one group, and then they paint everyone in the same brush, simply and base everything on those experiences. Okay. And unfortunately, there is a certain amount of upset, of deflection. Now, obsession can also come in different forms. It can also come in many ways. One of them is a spiritual obsession, okay? Which is any under the influence of a spirit when it alters or suppresses the normal manifestation of the personality or subject. Now, don't get me wrong. It's nothing wrong to have religious views. It's nothing to have religious values. Okay. When it gets to be an issue is that when you try to compel others to accept what you believe, or better yet, accept your definition of what those religious values should be. Okay. I'll give you a perfect example. You can have 10 people who state that they're Christian. Well, guess what? You're going to have 10 different interpretations of their understanding of what is Christianity is. And of course, you're going to have different interpretations of what is sin. You have the interpretations of what is holy. However, there's certain things that are not open to interpretation, which are the core values that we embrace in Christianity. Now, let me just share with you again the symptoms of obsession. Fear of contamination or dirt, doubting and having a hard time dealing with uncertainty, needing things to be orderly and balanced, aggressive or horrific thoughts about losing control and harming others or yourself, unwanted thoughts including aggression or sexual or religious subjects. Now, another type of obsession is when people hoard, when the people collect what many of us appear to be junk or rubbish. But for them, They have this fear that if they if they throw out that thing, they might lose it or what have you. Now, I remember years ago in my job um, with with the city, I dealt with someone who was a hoarder, and actually, she collected so much stuff that there was literally no space in the apartment to move, much less to sit. Okay. Now, I did manage to convince her to have someone to do like what's called a heavy duty cleaning job, which is basically I made arrangements for people come and they remove all that trash, all that rubbish out of the apartment. And for the first time in years, the apartment was clean. Would you believe that days, literally not too many days after that, this person actually went to the trouble of gathering all the stuff that was thrown out and brought back to her to the apartment. In fact, there used to be a reality show on TCL, the Learning Channel, called Hoarders. Okay. Where people were like literally collect garbage. Okay. So much that there was virtually no room for them to move, where it was a health issue, where it was a fire hazard as well. Unfortunately, they have this obsession of collecting things that is basically should have been discarded, but for fear or whatever, have collected and collected and collected. That's an obsession. Another type of obsession is hatred based on skin color, based on ethnicity, based on religion, based on national origin, or even sexual orientation. Now, let me make this perfectly clear. Um, while I disagree to what the LGBTQ plus community believes, as far as people born with a particular sexual orientation, they have a right to live their lives as they see fit. The only thing that I have an issue, and this is not just applicable to them, it's applicable to people in general. When people try to force their beliefs on others. And to be perfectly clear, there is a lot that we do not know regarding the LGBTQ community. And of course, we have our own perception for things of that nature. I respectfully disagree that a person is born with a particular sexual orientation. I believe it's learned behavior. But my thing is the law is what concerning concerning assault do, that's purely up to them. Good evening, Georgia. Thank you very much for stopping by. Okay, actually, what we're talking about is obsession. Okay. Good evening, Herbie. Thank you very much for stopping by. And as I stated before, Herbie has a new YouTube channel, so I'm going to ask that you show some hand and subscribe to his channel. And of course, the same thing could be applicable to my friend Georgia. Okay, just give me a moment. You're quite welcome. And actually, in the description, there's a link to Herbie's channel, so you can hit that link and you can see his content. Thank you very much, Herbie. Okay. Now, let me just define again what is obsession. In psychology, it refers to a persistent, intrusive thought, idea, or image that dominates a person's mind and can cause significant distress or anxiety. That is the definition of obsession. And we've seen people who have demonstrated obsession regarding certain groups, regarding sex, and also regarding different philosophies. Oh, okay. But look, in all fairness, I have covered this topic before, but it's something that we need to discuss because every now and then we come across individuals that are obsessive regarding certain thoughts and certain philosophies and things of that nature. Okay? Like for example, those who which are hate groups, okay? They demonstrate obsessive behavior regarding minorities, also regarding people of color, also people who are undocumented here in this country, undocumented. Also regarding gender, also regarding political parties and things of that nature. That is so true. And and sometimes these individuals will take to social media and then they will display their ish regarding certain individuals or certain groups, whether it be biracials, whether it be Black people, whether it be Latinos, or what have you. I'm just Hopefully, the background music is not too loud. If it is, let me know, and I'll tone it down a bit. Yeah, I can see it. I mean, another obsession also has to do with what's going on in the Middle East as it pertains to the nation Israel and Hamas and certain Palestinian groups. Okay. And of course, some people have a certain narrative that they're painting, whether it be towards Palestinians or whether it be the Israelis. Yep. Which is why I've decided not to, not for any discussion regarding that topic, because reality is people don't know how to discuss the topic without getting emotional and really going off the deep end. But yeah, there's certain individuals that are obsessed regarding the most insane things. I mean, look, I remember there was this one individual. His obsession had to do with Black people. Why? I have no idea. I don't watch their content. I don't follow their content. So I don't even know if that person is still on social media. Okay. And also, another type of obsession is that when you try to bring racist theories and principles to your native country, that's an obsession. Particularly, there is one character with his obsession was removing all the dark-skinned people from the Dominican Republic. Now, that's an obsession because, look, when it comes to Latinos, we come in different shades and different types. Okay? And we must be mindful. We are a mixture of 3 different cultures. Part of our culture comes from Africa. The second part of our culture comes from the indigenous peoples of the countries that make up Latin America. And, of course, Spain. Because let's keep it real. When the Spaniards came to the so-called New World, many of them did not bring their women folk with them. So men, being the men that they are, okay, in order to release their carnal desires, they engage in sexual intercourse with the indigenous women or the black women they brought in as slaves. Okay, I agree. So this is where it's a huge issue. By trying to make a nation of all light-skinned people, when the fact of the matter is there was a lot of mixing. I mean, trying to bring racist American views to the Dominican Republic, that's an obsession. Okay. And I'm not gonna lie, some of our community have this deep obsession regarding Spain. That Spain is so wonderful paradigm. I hate to break it to the Hispano-types, but the Spanish Empire will never rise again. But this over glorification of Spain. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a lot of Spanish culture that we can take pride in. Well, I mean, okay, I don't know a lot about it, so I can't say either way. I will say that it wasn't that much different. Slavery in Latin America compared to slavery in the United States. The difference is, of course, there wasn't such a big issue with mixing. Okay, but we all know for a fact that the white slave masters in the United States, many times, they engage in rape regarding the slaves, of which what happened was, guess what? You had a lot of mixed people who were slaves. Even though many of them were married, it's just that I guess they wanted to so-called try that forbidden fruit. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. But I mean, there was differences between Spain and slavery in the United States. Yeah, that's true. I mean, look, the fact of the matter is, okay, it is believed that Thomas Jefferson did engage in a sexual relationship with one of his slaves. Okay. And of course, it was an unfair balance because the fact of the matter is, female slaves did not have the option to say no. They were property. Okay. So if I was a slave owner and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna get busy with this black female slave because she has a nice booty or a nice butt or whatever. I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna do my thing and satiate my lustful desires. Because at that time, black people were property. And just to further bring that point forward, a black person under the Constitution was originally 3/5 of a human being. But as I stated before, obsession comes in many ways and in many forms. Hatred towards a group of people is an obsession. Hatred towards the opposite sex is also an obsession as well. Because unfortunately, you have certain individuals that had a negative experience with, or a couple of negative experiences with members of the opposite sex. Yeah. I mean, look, the Portuguese were not that much different. Okay, when they arrived in the area known as Brazil, again, many of them did not bring their wives or their girlfriends. So what did they get? They did the same thing. They approached the indigenous women and they satisfied their lustful desires for them and produce offspring. And of course, when they bought black people from Africa as slaves, what did they do? They satisfied their sexual lusts by engaging in, I'm just going to call it rape. Okay, pure and simple. And why? Because, of course, they had no rights. Let me tell you, at one time, the whole territory belonged to France. Then it belonged to Spain. Okay. Then it returned to France, and then we actually bought it as part of the Louisiana Purchase. But that's another topic altogether. Another type of obsession is, of course, political. Okay, and I'm going to refer to the mega sheep cult. Okay, and I call them a cult because many of them still blindly follow Donald Trump. Okay, so we're talking about a person that have failed multiple times in the business world, where he filed bankruptcy, where he's been married 3 times, and he was unfaithful. It appears to be all 3 of his wives. Okay. And also, when he was the president, we all know what happened under COVID. Hundreds of thousands of people became infected under his watch. Okay. Also, he was not dealing with the pandemic seriously. And there was a mechanism in play that the Obama administration created to help deal with pandemics. What does Trump does? Dispense to them because he didn't want to give any credit to another person. And that is another obsession. Okay. And of course, Donald Trump is obsessive regarding the fact that he has a humongous ego. He wants his ego to be strong. He wants people to praise his name and think that he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and that he can do. Guess what? He's not perfect. And in fact, virtually every campaign promise that Trump made when he was running for president, he had broken. Remember when he was talking about how he was going to bring down prices in eggs and groceries. Guess what? They're gone. That with the tariffs, it's going to bring in huge amounts of money going into our country lives. And the funny thing is, not only have prices of groceries gone up, he considered it a good thing. But anyone that follows Donald Trump knows that, he is not an honest person, that he's obsessed with making money for himself, and that he has a huge ego, and anybody that says anything, other than he's a wonderful, fearless leader, he gets upset and sues and things of that nature. So, I have been talking for over an hour regarding the topic of obsession. Okay. So, if anyone wishes to hit the link and join me, they can do so. Well, look, as far as the political climate is concerned, believe it or not, many of the mega crowd is upset with Donald Trump because he has not fulfilled any of his campaign promises. And then you have those who are the mega sheep are upset because they're not deporting enough people. Okay. You have people from the mega sheep crowd upset because they're not persecuting, because they're not arresting more of those who are in this opposition. So, I mean, I can go on and on and on, but I think we all get the point when it comes to the topic of obsession. So I'm going to say it one more time. The link is there should anyone who wishes to opine and join the panel. Or maybe you just want to stay in the chat. Yes, I did. Now, if no one wishes to hit the panel or enter any further comments, then I will start to wrap this up. As I said before, I have discussed this matter before, but it's always important to discuss it because we do come across people that are obsessed regarding certain philosophies, certain beliefs. Many of them are unfounded. Many of them based on erroneous assertions. Okay, no problem. You have to excuse me because, like I said, every now and then I will need to go check and see if there's any comments on Instagram. But I think at this point I've said all that I needed to say. Okay, because I don't believe in belaboring the point. But of course, you are all welcome to your opinions. Maybe you disagree with what I'm saying. Maybe you think I don't know what I'm talking about. That's fine. Because I don't run an echo chamber here. Everyone has the right to discuss whatever they wish to discuss. And everyone has the right to their own personal views. Okay. And if they disagree, fine. As long as we can discuss our differences as mature adults, that's not an issue. What is another example of an issue of an obsession is that everyone has to think and agree to what the content creator says. Okay. But this is not an echo chamber here. This is not a cult here. Everyone has the right to opine and express their opinions as they see. The only thing that I ask is respect. That is all I ask. And just one more time, for the people that tuning in, the topic for tonight is obsession. Good evening, Donna Mando. Thank you very much for stopping by. So the topic for tonight is obsession. And of course, we all know that there's certain people that are obsessed regarding certain beliefs, certain practices, and things of that nature. Now, I will say this. If you need mental health, there are therapists that you can reach out to get to address it. If you get to the point that affects your mental well-being. Now, sometimes, of course, people are prideful and they don't wish to admit that they have an issue. Okay. But the reality is this. In order to address a problem, you have to admit the problem exists. Because as long as you don't think that you have a problem, you're not going to address it. Once you do admit that you have a problem, that's half the battle right there. And there is no shame if you come to the realization that you have certain obsessions that do affect how you think, that do affect how you react. And yes, there are therapists, mental health professionals that can help you with that. So what I'm going to do is, being that no one is going to join the panel, just want to remind everybody that the link to join the panel has been done. It does not appear that anyone's going to join me, and I've said whatever needs to be said. Unless the other people wish to opine in the comments, I'm going to start to wrap this up. But people will, it seems like people will always have obsessions for multiple. So I will be live tomorrow night, 10 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Well, I'm going to be talking about community, a Christian concept. Now, as always, I will state the following. When it comes to these topics, I want to make it understood that I'm not trying to compel people to embrace Christianity or embrace my perception of Christianity. Because I do understand that not everyone that watches my content is a Christian. I get it. Okay. So normally I would say for those people who emotionally are not Christian, all I ask is to talk to. That's all I ask. And of course, I do appreciate all those who comment in the chat. I also appreciate all those who watch my clouds, and the haters. As we all know, I have haters. For whatever reason. As far as obsession is concerned, you could be set free from obsessions. Just recognize what they are. And if you do need a mental health expert, don't be embarrassed and get yourself a therapist. And of course, I'm going to close the same way that I always close. We must do everything possible to avoid the presence of the mentally and intellectually challenged. Because if we fail to do so, we will be infected by the stupidity and mental insanity. This has been another episode of Uncommon Sense. I will be announcing tomorrow what's going to be the topic of my other channel this Thursday, most likely 9 o'clock. And with that being said, take care, stay blessed, have a wonderful night, and peace.